Hello, everybody, and welcome yet again to another episode of the Elite City Podcast. We have a returning guest, a friend of the show, Paul. I do not remember how to say your last name. I do apologize.
That's fine. There are like 7 different pronunciations floating around the internet right now.
That's why you just say you make up a name like City.
Oh, see,
Paul City.
Paul City. Yeah,
there you go.
Actually, sounds like a band from the '80s.
Yeah, I toured with Foreigner in '84.
But we had to have Paul on because there's just so much happening, so much going on.
So much going on. The CM Punk rumor mill it's moving pretty fast right now.
It is. It really is. And All Access premiered, which was spreading its own set of rumors now and its own set of backstage gossip. So we've got that too.
Unreal show. I'm so happy we didn't physically talk about it, and it's going to be all like first reaction.
Yeah, I made a point to not message you about it after I saw it, just to like we can talk about it. We can talk about it on the podcast.
We're being laughed at on our own show, I believe.
Well, this is the last time you'll be a guest.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, eh?
Paul City out. I'm out.
But yes, All Access premiered yesterday. I don't know if both of you have seen it. I know Blasco's seen it.
Yes, I have.
General impressions. What did you think?
It reminded me of a 1 hour road to.
Yeah, good call.
Like real life. I really liked it. It's they kind of buried Thunder Rosa, but I kind of enjoyed that.
They definitely buried Thunder Rosa.
I mean, there's a little sarcasm in there. But yeah, I did kind of enjoy that though. I don't know why they made her seem awful, and I know she isn't awful, but I see where they were coming from though.
And I've heard that next week she's gonna get to
I
so.
was gonna say it looked like she was gonna get to tell her side of the story.
Speaking of stories, though, a weird thing I found it weird. Yes. They were just like the Young Bucks got suspended. Anyway, moving on. That was weird.
The Bucks did say they were never going to talk about it, so they kind of they let everybody know.
Yeah.
Like, did you catch that at the beginning?
It's a weird. I understand that maybe like there are legal issues, but it is weird to just be. They've never explained, like on TV, why the Young Bucks and Kenny got suspended. They were just like, they got suspended and now they're back. Like, it's always been like this weird, like they fell into a black hole for 2 months and then came back.
So I haven't seen it. So like, is the show like is it like a reality show, like on the road, like vignettes, or is it like, because you said they were burying Thunder Rosa.
Yeah, it's kind of this was the first episode, so it was kind of also like introducing the characters. If you hadn't, I don't know who's watching the show who doesn't watch AEW, but I guess that's their goal, is to make it like a Total Divas type thing where people who don't watch wrestling still watch the show. So they kind of, their main characters are kind of Sammy and Ty, and then Adam Cole and Britt. And they kind of had a little bit with MJF, but not much. And then the Bucks were like their next main storyline. Okay. So Britt was kind of the narrator for the show, because she's connected to the Adam Cole stuff, and she's also connected to the women's title and Thunder Rosa. So she kind of was like their main character on the show. They don't really follow them on the road, but they have them backstage at events talking a little bit before their matches and a little bit after their matches. But she really did bury Thunder Rosa. She had a conversation with Tony Storm, who at the time of the recording was the interim champion. And we'll talk about that more, but everyone hates interim champions. Like it's universally seems like all wrestlers hate the interim title idea. And they kind of buried Thunder Rosa being like, you get to be the interim champion, and she, just said she was hurt and didn't want to show up anymore, and now you don't even get to be the real champion. And they kind of, Britt Baker's was kind of comparing her situation of, I have a back injury, I had a broken hand, I had a broken nose, and I continued on. So why didn't she? Which was a little
Yeah,
but it was very wrestler. It was very wrestler to be like, well, I broke my back and continued wrestling, so why didn't you? And I'm like, well, you probably shouldn't. But then they cut to Adam Cole being like, he has a serious injury, so he can't wrestle. I'm like, it was a little strange, but.
And I was gonna say the only thing that made me like agree with Britt is when Britt had her broken arm, and like, now granted, it's different if you have a back injury. Like, Britt could still work with a broken arm, but she was still saying, like, no matter what she had, she would have still been backstage and still had like the camaraderie with everybody. Like, you're getting paid a lot of money to get flown out to go hang out, so why wouldn't you be there? Like,
yeah, I kind of get her point too. Like, she put over Thunder Rosa, and then Thunder Rosa just wasn't around. I can kind of see her being, if you're injured, show up and cut a promo or do some backstage stuff. Don't like. But in the same,
that's the way I took it.
In the same sense, like, she knows that all injuries aren't the same, right? Like, maybe Thunder Rosa, we don't know what Thunder Rosa's injury is. And Britt,
that's what I was just going to say.
Britt also seemed like she was playing this up for TV, right? She was trying to create drama that necessarily may not have been there.
Yeah, and she was definitely like swinging in and out of character, like, because when she did the thing, like when she explained that she was a real dentist, like, she was Britt Baker, the human being,
right?
And then, like, I forget what the exact quote was, but when she said something like, do you want me to be an ignorant bitch or whatever, and she kind of got that little smirk on her face and then got real catty.
Yeah.
It was just an instantaneous switch, but she was doing that a lot, I noticed.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit of a problem with wrestlers whenever wrestlers do out of character, in character stuff. Or it's like Britt Baker backstage, but she's still being Britt Baker, the TV character, but not on TV, but also on TV. Like, it's a little, whenever wrestlers try to do that, it's hard to do.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting, and I enjoyed everything.
I like the show. Like, I would watch it. I'd watch it.
Totally.
Weekly.
I'm totally all in on it. It was fun. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think people are going to love Sammy when this is over.
Yeah, especially because they were hinting at, they basically said that Sammy was all excited that he got to work a match with Danielson, 2 matches with Danielson.
Yeah.
And then in the preview for next week, I think he's like, yeah, but then I haven't been on TV in 2 weeks. Like, they're kind of making him seem like more of a sympathetic character, and Ty too, being where she was like, everybody loved me, and then I started dating Sammy, and then everyone started booing me. Like, I don't know why. Like,
well,
yeah,
I can tell you why.
Yeah. So they're kind of trying to paint them more sympathetic,
like positive. Yeah,
more positive light.
The Eddie stuff seems like it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, because I don't know if he's always kind of, he's like MJF where he's always kind of in character.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting to see how he does this.
And I don't want to sound negative when I say this, because I myself suffer from mental health and I take medicine every day for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I say this, I'm not being negative, but I think Eddie is going to end up being the poster boy for mental health after this show. And I really hope he is, because he would be a great flag bearer for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that article that he had in like last year in the Players Tribune was outstanding.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, like, they showed the little preview of him and Ruby Soho, like, sitting in the arena seats, and she was like telling him, like, people love you, and he's like, I don't want to hear it. And she's like, no, they really love you. And he's like, bah.
Yeah.
And I think this whole thing, like, Eddie is going to make a lot more, like, I don't want to say personal fans, but like, people are going to latch on to him more, I think.
Yeah. What did you think of what I'm calling the McMahonification of Tony Khan, where they kind of started the show with like, Tony Khan started this company and revolutionized wrestling. Tony Khan, like, it was very what Vince would have done. The show started with a very Vince McMahonish type tone.
See, I looked at it differently, but you're right.
Paul, you didn't watch it, but it basically started with, in 2019, Tony Khan had a revolutionary idea to start a wrestling company that would compete. No one's ever competed in the last 20 years, but Tony Khan did. Like, basically, it started with, and I get it. But it did seem a little like that's exactly how Vince McMahon would have started a show about his company.
1000%.
But then I would say, like, if you, I do think there are, okay, so without having seen it, I'm just talking on my ass here right now, but like, yeah, thank you. But I imagine, like, if your only understanding of wrestling comes from like a cursory knowledge of WWE, and you probably somewhat know Vince McMahon,
right?
And so I guess it's like an audience point of identification, even though I don't think Tony Khan has had any sexual harassment lawsuits against him.
Not that we know of, and hopefully not.
We know of yet. Or, got arrested, tried by the federal government for, drugs and whatever. But like,
you see, you still have time. That took years before Vince got trained.
Yeah, that is true.
He's just starting out. You never know.
I mean, yeah. So yeah, but it's weird. I always think like the things that turn me off AEW are the points where they're trying to be a bit too WWE, and it makes sense to me, but also it sounds a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I get it as well.
Totally.
And they did mention that, like, he had the elite, like it wasn't just like he started this company on his own. They did say that. They didn't mention Cody, which I'm sure people are mad about. But they mentioned the Bucks and Kenny.
They're probably not allowed, honestly.
Yeah, it's true. They're probably not allowed. You're right. I didn't think of that.
If Cody would have went to WWE and like back, and I'm not making fun of him, I say this, but if he would have been Stardust again, they could have said, "Oh, and Cody Rhodes." But because he's like an active roster member, they probably couldn't use
Yeah, you're right. They probably have some weird deal where they own his likeness or something for television. Yeah, you're right. That's true. I didn't think of that. Because I mean, Ty did mention she mentioned that she was hired by WWE,
right?
But you're right that they probably can't use him because he's a current character on their show.
Her story too seemed like, what kind of scumbags do they have working for them? Like, she was like basically saying they were just like touring the Olympic rejects and promising them the world,
right? Essentially, yes.
And then she was like, "Oh," and then I got fired after she moved to America. Like, Jesus.
There was a little with her, and with not as much with her, but also with the Bucks, where I think they didn't want to bash WWE too much because they kind of just said, "Oh, WWE found me at an Olympic trial, and I was really upset, and they hired me, and I moved to America," and then like fade to black, and now I'm in AEW. Like, they didn't like. I get why they didn't want to mention what happened, but it was kind of like the Bucks situation where like, we won the trios title, now here we are now. Like, it was kind of just fast forward through time. Like, that's not talking about the uncomfortable thing. Yes. But I get it. Like, I understand why I found everybody on the show sympathetic except for the Bucks. Like, I didn't, when they were just like, we haven't been in a ring in 2 months. I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that. Like, I really, like, it's 2 months. Like, yeah, you didn't wrestle for a bit, but now you are again. So like they didn't have health problems. They didn't like, it's
right.
It's a little weird that they were like, oh, we haven't wrestled in so long. Like, yeah, but you could have wrestled in a ring. Like, no one told, like, you just weren't allowed on television.
And they own a ring too.
Right.
Like, that
so,
really bothered me when he was like, "Oh, we haven't had the chance to wrestle. We were sitting at home for 8 weeks and you own a ring." Like,
right.
No better time.
And like, missing 8 weeks of work for most people is like, that's a pretty good vacation. Like, it's not, I know they didn't want this to happen to them, but like, it's not like Adam Cole, who's like, I couldn't wrestle for a year because I actually couldn't get out of bed because I had a concussion. Right. Like, they easily could have done, I don't know. I found them the least interesting characters on the show. And that's not even really me knocking them because I like them in the ring, but I did find them the least interesting characters on the show.
Now, this is going to be me playing devil's advocate and me thinking that everything is a work. Did you notice that on their first time back at work, right before they run into the big show when he's pulling into the lot, and they're shaking hands with everybody. The first thing, everybody sees them and starts busting out laughing. And Eddie did it the most. And when him and Nick are hugging, they're just cracking up.
Right.
And it really made me think, like, okay, like, is that your little wink and nod to the camera to say, like, yeah, we just bamboozled all y'all? Or
I took it as that they were laughing, like, wasn't that a dumb situation you guys ended up in anyway? And like,
see, I took it as like the other one, like, yeah, we got him. Everybody thinks this is real.
right.
I don't
Well,
know.
on that note, let's just move on to the CM Punk situation. We were talking about
Yes.
The interim title, how Tony Storm and Britt Baker really didn't like the interim title. Another person who didn't like the interim title, we found out, was on Renee's podcast, was Jon Moxley. He didn't seem to like the idea of being interim champion either, and wanted to validate his title run by beating CM Punk. And then we get into we don't actually know what happened there. Like, when did Punk refuse to lose to him? Did he refuse to lose to Punk? We don't know, but there's a bunch of rumors going around.
This is my whole, like, wrestlers are weird. They're like the goalies in the NHL, or just goalies in hockey in general.
Right.
Sorry if there's any goalies out there listening, I apologize. First off, the sport, it's like that part of the sport is fake. So
Right.
why that would matter to you is beyond me. Like, as long as you've made it through your match, all your arms and legs still work, and you can walk and you're not hurt, you should be happy. Now, from the owner's perspective, if you know that somebody's hurt, why don't you just strip them of the title, have a tournament, and then say, when the person comes back, they're the number one contender. And then you never have to have an interim, like, champion, because it's not real.
I wonder if they would have, because the first time they did the interim title was when I think Cody got COVID and he was supposed to be on Battle of the Belts. And then they did that weird interim title where Sammy faced Dustin for the interim title, and then Cody was gone for like a week, and then they just had a rematch, which is weird. If they hadn't done that, which I think they wanted to have a title match on Battle of the Belts because it's Battle of the Belts.
Right.
If they hadn't had to do that, you think they would have done it later? Or were they just trying to follow their precedent by doing it again?
I mean, that is a good point. I forgot that was the first time that they did do it, when Cody was sick. Maybe to bring back what Paul said a few minutes ago, like, maybe to just be like, hey, WWE never did this. Let's stick to it for a second, to maybe it's just try something different.
Yeah.
Maybe. And then they saw that it didn't work. But if that was the case, I don't think everybody would be so mad about it. Like, Mox, even talking about it today on Renee's podcast, he seemed a little annoyed.
Yeah, it's weird because I in one sense, I get wanting to be recognized for the thing that you did.
Right.
But in the other sense, like, if Mox had a 5-star match when he was interim champion, and then Punk came back and beat him, and that interim title didn't count. It's not like that 5-star match didn't happen. It's not like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, it's not like people will be like, oh, he had a good match at the pay-per-view, but it was for the interim title, so we're not going to count it. Like, that's not how that works. Mm-hmm. So I don't. On one sense, I get it, because you want to be recognized for the thing that you did, but in the other side, like, yeah, it's not real. So,
and again, like, I don't. It does sound like we're ragging on the person. Like, it's taking nothing from the person. It's not their.
Yeah, and I'm not a wrestler, so maybe, like, I don't understand, right? Like, I
don't know. It just, to me, like, there's a simple solution, because the sport isn't real. Like, you can literally change the game anytime you want.
Well, I feel like they're not going to do it again. I feel like this is the.
I agree. I think
there's the interim titles. I feel like, because it didn't work.
Yeah, for me, I think I talked about this the last time I was on the show. Like, I don't like the interim title. I think it just creates confusion, and again, like, it's not real. I really struggle to understand. As much as I love wrestling, this is a brick wall for me. I don't understand the need to be the champion, right? I get it, but I also don't get it. Like, this isn't a real thing,
right?
And you're still getting the recognition if you go on last, if you're the last match, or you're carrying the company for a bit of time. I don't know. Like, I listen to most of the podcasts, and I don't know. I get it, but also I think like Rick said, like it's just something out of my wheelhouse. I'm not a wrestler. But I don't get it. I don't.
Same here.
And it's weird that, like, I don't know, because you're right that when you're the champion, they're kind of trusting you with, like, we are going to put your face on the poster and you're going to go on last and you're going to be like our big name that we try to sell our shows with. But like, you can be that person without the title. Like in WWE, like if John Cena was never champion again, John Cena's still John Cena. And when when he wrestles on a card, everyone knows, oh, the John Cena match is a big match. Like, that's what I should care about. Mm-hmm. Or The Rock. Like, if The Rock came back, people would watch The Rock whether or not he was champion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird that they feel the need to, like, when The Rock did come back, they felt the need to have him in a title match with John Cena because, like, he's The Rock. He doesn't need that.
Right.
So it's weird now that, like, yeah, if John Moxley was world champion, interim world champion during that summer and had a bunch of good matches, and then Punk came back and beat him and became, you know, unvalidated, devalidated, whatever the word is, his Moxley's title run.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean they didn't trust him over that summer to be the face of the company, and it didn't mean that he wasn't in main events, and it doesn't mean that he wasn't their top star.
Right.
Right. It's just so weird.
But I guess in the pecking order, maybe it does. Like, maybe it's just like, oh, we're putting you here just because this other guy's hurt. But as soon as he comes back, you're not really the top star. Maybe that's why it's upsetting.
Well, that I could see that. But again, like Paul said, as long as you're on TV and as long as you're on the card, like, I don't know. I guess it's an ego thing that I just don't have. But
yeah,
I would just be grateful. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's like we always say about professional sports. Like, if you're in the NHL or NFL and you're not trying to win the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup or the NBA title, then there is something wrong. Like, you should want to be that. So I guess, they are professional athletes, so you should want to be the champion.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's not Bruno Sammartino in the 70s anymore. Like, in this day and age, like, there's people that have never been on television just through Twitter are more popular than people in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there are other ways to get yourself over too.
And I guess it depends on the person, because like someone like Bryan Danielson, he doesn't seem like he could care less. I've heard that he actually doesn't want to be the champion because he doesn't think he needs it. So I guess not to say one personality is better than the other personality, but it's not a universal thing.
And see, that's where I am with MJF right now too. Like, I think it's awesome that he has the belt, but does he need it?
Right. He could basically be doing the exact same thing without
exactly
the title. Yeah, I agree with that.
So
I did like Mox's take, and Renee kind of clarified his take on social media when he was just saying there's so much complaining and wrestlers complaining so much on social media, and Renee kind of pitched it as it's not a she kind of pitched it as it's like a younger person's thing. Like, a younger person will spend more time venting on Twitter than like maybe an older person will, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're unhappy. That's just how they vent.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, you might come home from work and complain to your partner or your friends, oh, that was a rough day at work. It doesn't mean you don't like your job necessarily. It just means you're venting right now. And so when, the Bucks will complain or someone will complain on Twitter, a younger wrestler will complain on Twitter, are they just venting? And it doesn't mean they're unhappy.
Right. And like, the other way I looked at that statement is, like, they're both looking at it through, like, I know Mox was on the indies, but he basically looks through things through like the WWE eyes even though he hates it there, but he was there longer than he was on the indies.
Right.
A lot of these people that are on the indies, like they could have been mad because they might have got burned by WPW or whatever,
Right.
and literally just went on Twitter and was like, "Hey, that place sucks. I hate it there."
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Mox doesn't have to worry about his job at all.
Right. And like Mox has a guarantee. He's like he's like a big band. They're not going to play for less than $5,000 or whatever. Like, so when Mox does those indie dates, he's still getting paid. But
Right.
not everybody has that luxury.
I did find it interesting that it wasn't necessarily them complaining. It's more just like they treat social media differently than maybe other people would treat it.
Mm-hmm. And that goes to like, I think a generational thing too, not only just right. Like you said, like I don't necessarily vent on social media because what I want to vent about, I have like, I'm in my 40s, right? Like I think of it like a WWE thing, like keep that stuff in house, right? Or keep it in the home, right? Whereas my students, right, like their like form of venting is to go on the TikTok, and I don't know if they're even on TikTok. I don't even know, but
the fact that you called it the TikTok just shows how old
that.
Yes, because I'm an old man, and
that was pretty awesome. I wasn't going to say anything, but I definitely noticed it too.
Damn,
they're on their internet. All the kids are on these days.
They got the Wi-Fi.
That's
they
right.
What is this?
Don't even need wires.
They don't even need tubes for the internet. That's.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Okay.
Landed
on some dead air.
Yeah, it really died there. What I did find interesting was this time after the Punk Instagram post, which he's a 45-year-old man. The fact that he's posting Instagram stories is a little odd. But
excuse me, he's 44 because we're separated. Our birthdays are a month apart.
Of course,
nice.
Not 40, not 45 yet.
But I mean, in one sense, I do get it because Meltzer's message board post was kind of, first of all, inflammatory, and we've heard Meltzer since then say that he should have been more clear and more when he spoke, because he wasn't very clear, and that led everyone to believe that it was a much worse situation than he actually meant it to be. So in one sense, I get Punk going on trying to defend himself. But in another sense, like that's only going to get you in trouble. No one's going to read, Chris Jericho is a fraud and be like, oh yeah, I think he is ready to come back to work.
Yes.
Right? Like that. So but what I was going to say is I did notice that the response from like wrestling media and people in wrestling was a little different than the response from the fans. Like you had, Sean Ross Sapp's, come out on a podcast or live stream and say, Punk's demeanor on this changed in recent months. Like he was trying to be more conciliatory. He was willing to apologize. He was willing to, make amends. And you have someone like JR come out and say that, he's a good guy. He should be in AEW. It was whereas the fans were just like, how could you possibly do that? That's so you've ruined every chance you ever have of. So like the response from people in wrestling, they didn't seem to care as much about Punk's post as like fans did. And that's not even saying fans are wrong, because if I'm at work and someone shares that I'm a fraud and a liar on social media, like I probably am gonna be mad at them when I see them next time too. So I get it.
Yeah. My whole thing with, you brought up a good point with the wrestling, like the wrestling media and the people within wrestling. Like, I think they understand that this is dead and buried, and it probably has been since probably a few weeks after it happened.
Right.
So you keep opening this, they keep ripping the Band-Aid off of this wound, aka the wrestling media. And all it's doing is, it creates a buzz, but does AEW care? Like, they're getting all the, like, this is WrestleMania week and everybody's talking about CM Punk's Instagram. Think about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get why the wrestling media does it, because people pay attention. I mean, it has been 6 months since CM Punk wrestled, and like everyone still wants to talk about him. So I understand why they continuously talk about him. Like, why do we continuously talk about him? Like, it's interesting, and people care.
Mm-hmm.
So I get why they continue talking about it.
But I mean, they understand that there's power in that, and that's why we always talk about, like, oh, why doesn't Tony Khan do this? Or if this is real, or if this is fake, or he should do this, he should do that. Publicity is publicity.
Mm-hmm.
I sent Rick a little article today, and negative news sells for AEW better than positive news, because they can't compete with how positive WWE's positive news is. I mean, they're a corporate machine that has millions of dollars tied up in, like, Make-A-Wish, this, that, and the other. So,
and I mean, they could issue a press release on Monday saying 100,000 people paid to see WrestleMania.
right.
Well, AEW can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess,
So
that's how they got it. Yeah, I get that.
yeah, so if you can just roll with somebody doing something on Twitter that you don't even have to pay for, like, of course Tony Khan is. I mean, he might care per se, but once those views start to go up, and once the whirlwind starts, that dude don't care,
Mm-hmm.
because CM Punk just gave him a commercial to sell pay-per-view, or to sell an angle, or hell, I'll use that tweet a year and a half from now. Like, it generates a good buzz, so they're gonna roll with it. And as long as the internet keeps melting down, they're going to keep doing it.
I saw something interesting. I think it was on Meltzer. They were saying that in the old days, and like, pre 1990 or pre Monday Night Wars, wrestlers basically got paid for the number of sales for a pay-per-view, or the number of people who bought tickets to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Since Monday Night Wars, since WCW, basically they're all on guaranteed contracts.
Okay.
So in the past, you might be more willing to, oh yeah, we'll bring an Ultimate Warrior, even though he's, I don't like him, but he's going to sell tickets. So I, as another wrestler, want Ultimate Warrior on this card because I get a percentage of the ticket sales, and he's going to sell more tickets. Whereas that's not the case right now. So does that make someone like, Kenny Omega or Chris Jericho less willing to bring Punk back, because it doesn't directly help them right now? Like, it could in the long run, if AEW becomes more successful and gets a better TV deal, like, they might get, their next contract might be bigger, but it doesn't specifically help them right now.
Does that still work in terms of pay-per-view buys? Right.
That I'm not sure of. I don't know. Because AEW, like at WWE, it doesn't, because they no longer sell pay-per-views.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if AEW, if they have something in their contracts, like if you sell more, your show, a pay-per-view you're on sells more, do you get paid more? I don't know.
That's a good question. I don't know that, but going back to what you were saying, Rick, I'll counterpoint that just the name CM Punk attached to your company can get you a better TV deal. So
I agree with that.
Omega and Jericho, I think, are smart enough to, and again, we're making it sound like this dude can't walk into a room without punching someone in the face. Like, he's not that bad.
And yes, much worse has happened in wrestling than
like,
this.
Yeah, and there's probably fights all the time. I mean, it's whatever. But
that's also why I feel like JR didn't care, because JR has worked in WWE in the 90s. I feel like JR has seen a bunch of stuff, and JR is like, yeah, well, I saw this is like an average, Monday night. Whereas the stuff that I saw is like way worse.
I saw Psycho Sid try to stab Arn Anderson.
Right. He was on that plane, didn't Brock Lesnar and Mr. Perfect smash into like the emergency exit and almost killed everybody. Almost kill them all.
Yeah. And that Ric Flair, sexually assaulted.
Right. Jim Ross is in every Dark Side of the Ring episode.
Yes.
Talking about what he saw.
Well, I mean, just imagine being head of talent relations then. You had the second wrestling boom. A majority of them were on drugs.
Yeah.
And there was more money flying around than you knew what to do with.
Right.
I mean, there's some wild stuff happening.
Yeah, for sure. So what do we think happens? What are our thoughts with the Punk thing?
I like what you and Josh said. I think Josh said this. Like I think this is something that was buried a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think everyone involved. I was thinking about something like I think AEW always is in this weird place. Like so much of wrestling identity is through WWE. So you're in that weird place. Like if you do something that's familiar to people, it's to WWE. If you do something that's so anti WWE, you piss people off because it's not pro wrestling, quote unquote.
Right. Yeah.
I think this negative press, if you want to call it that, is just AEW's way to shift the narrative consistently, right? And there was something that, like, I guess Punk. I was traveling when this happened because I think I messaged you, Rick. I'm like, what did Punk do now?
Yeah.
And
you left the internet. That was your mistake.
Yeah, I did. God forbid I take a day off. But like what happened? Like Jericho did, like he sent the GIF of Matt Hardy doing the delete motion to Punk's Instagram comment, apparently. So
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Like if you're really that angry, like that's not how you necessarily lash out. Like
I was just, yeah, like that would happen between two middle school, like a bully and the person that they were bullying.
mm-hmm.
Like that was such a childish way to deal with it. Like Jericho's in his 50s, Punk's in his mid 40s. Like you call him on the phone and be like, dude, what the hell is that about?
Yeah, it's not like they don't have each other's numbers,
Exactly.
right? Like, yeah.
Right. So I think he comes back.
Totally.
It's again, there have been far worse things in wrestling. I think there's enough. I think something happened in that All Out, right? But it's been buried, and it's like you can put out those negative stories. Oh, we don't want him back, and it's a way to keep the narrative going. And he comes back as a heel, and there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to come back with the BCC. That's my.
Oh, okay.
Especially now that they're full blown heels. That's my new thing.
Ooh.
I could. When after Mox was on the podcast with Renee, you're right. He still sounds kind of annoyed. But I think that's just Mox. Like I think he's kind of always annoyed. Like that's not even like he's just kind of like he's a grumpy kind of person, right? And that's not even in a negative. Like he's great. I think he's hilarious and he's a great wrestler. But like I think that's his kind of personality. Like he vents about stuff and he complains about stuff. Like he sounds kind of agitated most of the time. But anyway, when that first came out, my thinking was, if Punk really has a problem with Omega and the Bucks and Kenny and Mox, like that's too many people who are high up. And if they actually don't like him, I could see them being like, don't bring him back. Like not like if he comes back, we're leaving, but like just we don't want him around. Like he hasn't been here for 6 months and we're all happy, so don't bring him back. But then you had JR and other people saying that like, oh, he seems to be willing to, be conciliatory, which made me think that, oh, maybe they already, what both of you said, they probably already made up. And Mox maybe is annoyed at the fact that he's still talking about this, not necessarily annoyed at the situation. He might just be like, yeah, whatever. That was 6 months ago. I don't even care anymore. I just want to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is where, Rick, me and you have talked about it privately. This is where this didn't need to happen because Meltzer put his foot in his mouth on that stupid message.
That message board post was like, that was irresponsible of Meltzer. Even if he's a wrestling journalist, but he still calls himself a journalist. And as a journalist, that's like, as a person, that's like,
yeah,
to post something that vague is...
Especially knowing the truth,
right?
Because then it aided him, and he was like, "Oh, well, yeah, actually, I knew this, and I knew this. Oh, I should have said this 6 months ago." Like, okay,
because if you've noticed now that a lot of people on the internet still think, and I mean, it's the internet, right? So whatever. But a lot of people still think that short match that Punk had with Moxie, where he lost the title, A lot of people think, oh, he wasn't cleared for that match. That's not, Meltzer's even clarified. That's not what he was talking about. He was saying the build for their match was short because Punk wasn't cleared earlier. Like they might have wanted to do a match a month earlier or 2 months earlier, and they couldn't because Punk wasn't cleared. That's what he was actually trying to say. It's just the way he initially phrased it made it seem like, oh, Punk wasn't cleared for the match at all, which made AEW look bad. And then he was like, wait, no, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean he wasn't cleared for the match. I meant he wasn't cleared for when they wanted to initially have the match.
And see, this is, I'm devil's advocate all the time. This is where my brain works. And Meltzer's smarter than that. If he's not in on it, or if he wasn't saying like, hey, Tony, can I stir the pot a little bit today? You know what I mean? Like, he's smarter than that.
And I mean, it is relatively convenient that at the same time they came out with a Backstage Rumors television show.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That is dealing with this exact moment in time that they keep trying to somehow bury, but this moment in time keeps coming back.
Right. I do think even if no matter what happened, no matter how serious it was, Punk didn't like murder anyone or, attack anyone's family or anything, right? So like, they're all adults and experienced wrestlers. Like everyone involved is experienced. None of them are, not to knock someone, like Ricky Starks or Danhausen, but like they're new to like big name wrestling. They're new to like, whereas like Moxley and Jericho and the Bucks and Kenny, like they've been in like major wrestling companies for years.
Right.
And they're should be mature enough to go, hey, yeah, that was crazy. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's very childish, I think, if any of them have not moved on at this point.
And I mean, we have said it a million times on here. In every locker room, in every sport, there's no way every single person gets along, but they get along for the greater good.
Right.
Like the people in AEW realize that, oh, what we have here is like really special. Like they even get health insurance. Like there's 9-to-5 jobs that don't get health insurance, and these people are jumping off ladders into the crowd and get health insurance. Like, come on, it's pretty special to work there. And they get their hotels paid for, unlike WWE, which is amazing to me.
It's amazing to me that WWE still makes you drive around. I'm not going to go into it a lot, but the fact that they still make you rent a car and like drive to your next date that's ludicrous to me.
It's the most absurd thing. And go ahead, Paul.
Well, and just like piggybacking off that, like it amazes me that I am not a pro wrestler, but I would much rather go one place during a week if I had to do that much travel versus working for WWE, leaving Monday Night Raw and then driving to Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then to Fort Wayne, and then to Evansville, and then to Chicago.
Right. Yeah. For sure. I've heard people say, oh, now that Triple H is in charge of booking, because the internet loves Triple H, are all the free agents going to want to sign with WWE if the money's the same, which the money probably is similar.
Mm-hmm.
But the travel is, that's, if you're working 2 days a week at AEW, 1 or 2 days, whereas you're working 5 or 6 at WWE, like that's even if it's the same amount of money, like it's the same amount of money spread over 2 days versus that much money spread over 5 days.
Right. And the fact that someone's booking everything for you. Like you just get a text message and say your tickets are in the email. And you show up at the airport. Like there was a tweet for somebody trying to defend WWE, which why you would defend a $9 billion company that like is beyond me. Even if like, I don't care if you're loyal to it or not, it's a $9 billion company. Like there's nothing you can say that is right. You can't defend it.
Right. Even if you like their TV show. Yeah.
Right. Like they were trying to say, oh, well, that's all business expense. You can write all that off. Yes, that is all true. But if you're traveling that much, you're going to have to rent like 14 other suitcases for all the receipts you're going to have to carry around with you for the entire
Plus you have to do it. You have to like book a rental car and like, you have to book your own car and your own hotel and like plan your own route. And like, I think I've mentioned this before, where Kevin Nash talks about the trip, the the travel in like 90s WWE.
Mhm.
Whereas like I think he said he rented a car in Chicago and they drove for like a month. They went all the way to like Arizona and then drove back and returned the car in Chicago over like a 28-day period or something like that. Like, why are you doing that? And the reasoning was like that they're in small towns or they're in smaller places where like they're not near the airport. So driving to the airport, flying, getting another rental car, driving, it's like it's just as much time than it is to just drive straight there. But why are they making them do that?
Right.
Do they still not have guaranteed contracts in the same way that, like, is it closer to like the NFL style contract in the WWE that you can be released?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, their contracts are essentially
very one-sided.
Very one-sided. They can release you at any point, but basically you can't. You can't request it. You have to request a release. It has to be granted, which it never is.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very one-sided deals, and I don't understand how they're legal personally.
It's very strange. Yeah.
Well, right, like they're classified as independent contractors, right? So like they don't have a union, they don't have. It's like, right, because, oh God, like you can separate from that sort of contract anytime if you were the employer.
Yes.
And yeah, it's an $8 billion company that does all this good. Like, why?
Right. That's what I mean. Like the other thing with pro wrestling and contracts I never understood either is like if you're just a job guy, like I know job guys don't necessarily exist that much today, but like imagine being like Iron Mike Sharp in the 80s. Like, okay, your job was to just get beat up every single day of the week, but what was he actually getting paid? Like they had to take care of him in some way,
right? Because why else would he do it?
Back? Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But then again, you get to be Iron Mike Sharp. Like, I mean, yes, he wasn't Hulk Hogan, but that dude got to see the world on another guy's dime. And
that was back in the day where I've heard that people like to wrestle on whatever card Hogan was wrestling on because they got paid a percentage of the gate. And
there you go.
Shows with Hogan
was
a
sellout.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That just dawned on me.
On a slightly related note, I don't know if either of you saw Cody did an interview where he was talking about how he hates Seth Rollins and he almost got in a fight with him backstage, which like clearly didn't happen.
Right.
But I just loved him being like just throwing out backstage fights just to like stir up some more. Like Cody's always working. So he would just I was going to backstage fight just to like make a story about him. It was fun.
Cody is just like they could be filming the backstage and he could pull a knife and stab somebody. It's just not that interesting to me.
That's great.
I don't know.
How did so much talent like disperse from Dusty to Dustin to Cody? Like how was it just DNA? Like there's less DNA for talking after a certain point? Like
I think the problem is Cody takes himself really, really seriously, and wrestling is not that serious, and it's very silly. And and his brother recognizes that. Like Dustin is all for being silly, whereas I think Cody, even Dusty Rhodes, like he was when he went to WWF, and they were like, "Wear polka dots and dance." He was like, "All right," like
I'll get over.
Yeah, but like I think Cody is just he takes himself really, really, really seriously. And it makes it not fun.
But it could be fun. Like if he was like, you can take yourself super seriously. And if you just have a little wink of irony.
Oh yeah. Cody has no irony whatsoever.
And there's no irony.
Yeah, none whatsoever. The whole time in the AEW, when everyone was saying, "Oh, this is a long con heel turn," I'm like, nope, it wasn't that. He thought he was being a face the whole time. Like there was no irony, there was no wink and nod, there was no wait and see what happens. Cody is just what Cody is.
Guys, he solved racism.
He really did.
I think
we should be cutting on some slack here.
Yeah, like he solved a 500-year-old problem in the United States.
He did, and Anthony Ogogo was never heard from again.
the sad part is he started to make a comeback, and then he got buried again.
Yeah,
Poor Anthony.
poor guy. Well, speaking of, now that we're on topic, Dynamite
Yes.
also happened.
Dynamite also happened.
To cut to it, an hour almost into our podcast, there was also an AEW show recently, so maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, it was a heck of a show. First off,
It was. I enjoyed it. It was a good show. It was continuing their trend of more of a storyline focused show versus a wrestling focus. But like that's fine. Like I'm not knocking it. I liked it. I thought it was good.
I did think it was good too. Do you think this is a little bit of Double J sprinkling this in with his producing?
Yeah, I can see that. One thing I actually noticed on All Access is how many wrestlers seem to be producers. Like Tony Schiavone went over to someone, I forget who, and was like, "Oh, me and Sanjay will talk about that later." Like Sanjay Dutt's clearly doing something backstage.
Yeah.
There were scenes when like Billy Gunn had a headset on and he was like doing something backstage. Like I feel like there are a lot more wrestlers involved in the day-to-day production of the show than I assumed there were, because it seems like Tony Khan does everything.
Right.
But I don't think that's the case. So it could easily be, maybe it is stuff. Maybe Double J is involved in this. I don't know. But there has been a change. Like the shows have changed recently.
I'm going to ask you guys this because I would watch it here and there. A lot of people the past few weeks have reminded them of TNA. Does it remind you guys? I've never watched
I didn't watch it enough to know. I never really watched it.
That was like TNA was on when I was like had checked out of wrestling.
Yeah, that's most people that checked out of wrestling.
Yeah, same here.
At that point, yeah.
If it would be on, I would be like, oh, I haven't watched wrestling in a minute, and I'd watch a match or two, and like I don't know, I just leave or quit paying attention. But
I always kind of knew what was going on in TNA, but never really watched it.
I would see. I've retroactively seen a lot of matches after the fact, or I've gone to indie shows where guys that were big in TNA or were in TNA at the time, like Abyss.
Okay.
So I would go back and but then I would gravitate toward the train wreck matches in TNA, like Jeff Hardy, doped out of his mind,
right?
Versus but I don't know, I'm trying to think, I'm thinking more of like Jerry Jarrett, right, and Jeff's dad,
right,
like his Memphis booking, like the very long form narratives and a lot of wrestling, but not, I don't know, but that was a very different time, like 70s, 80s wrestling,
right.
That was the first show I've seen in a few weeks, and I thought it was fine. I thought it was pretty solid in terms of
it has been very solid.
Yeah, they've focused on, like, they've picked a few storylines and kind of had them run throughout the show, which I like, which they weren't doing before. But now stuff like the stuff with the BCC or the stuff with the Elite, like, kind of is like the theme of the show, which I like, which they weren't doing before. It was kind of, everything was more contained.
And if they stay with this format, I hope they do. So when, you have a blow off of, just say when the Elite thing ends, you have something that the second that ends, you have the next one starting up.
Right.
And then maybe just keep those, like, you're obviously going to keep the Elite on television, but their narrative might be dropped down a few pegs. And then I just hope they keep that momentum rolling. And that would be like premier, I can't think of what I was trying to say. We'll just say, like, it would just remind me of like old Raw, like some storyline would end and then there'd be another one ready to go, and you would just sprinkle all that throughout, like leading through the pay-per-view. It would just, the same stuff would be going on.
And it would make sense why. One thing I always found weird about wrestling is, say, wrestler A and wrestler B are feuding and they have their blow-off match, and then they both move on as if that had never occurred.
Right.
And like they both have new opponents and like never interacted. Like now that's over. Like, why is that over? Like, you should you should explain why it's over. Like someone else attacked you or you got another problem. And that's why you're moving on to a new thing, not just like because we had a cage match. So now we just don't don't hate each other anymore.
Yeah, because you won and I lost. I accept that.
Right.
Yeah. I think at points I remember like older WWF, like there was like Randy Savage and Jake the Snake, like they had a feud for like 3 years.
Right.
And like every time they interact with each other, like the commentators would comment, right? Because that's their job on on what had happened between that's always bothered me too. And I feel like when I started like turning off WWE was I just felt like it was just so compartmentalized between
and them not acknowledging what happened before
is
a problem.
Yeah.
If CM Punk and Bryan Danielson had a match now, you would expect them to talk about how they've had matches in the past and a rivalry in the past or whatever. But like WWE started acting like they had never had matches before and just like this is a new thing, and it was a little odd.
Well, they did that with John Cena and freaking Orton. Like they fought like 17 times, and each time was like they had never met before.
Right. Right. Yeah, that sort of thing is they have a problem. I've said this on the podcast before. Like AEW does a better job at acknowledging things that happen in WWE than WWE does.
Yes,
that's what I was just gonna say. It's absurd.
So what did everyone, if you saw it, what did you think of Jack Perry's promo with MJF or that segment?
Oh, it was killer. I mean, that's the future right there, and they're slowly these pillars every week are slowly taking a little more of the show over, and that torch is slowly being passed, and I'm digging it. That they could have went another 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was long, but it was entertaining long. Like it wasn't the only thing, and this is a nitpick, I didn't like when MJF mentioned that he's dating Jack Perry is dating Anna Jay, because that doesn't make sense on TV. I know they're dating in real life, and that's fine.
Right.
But it makes no sense on TV. They've never mentioned that before. And probably a lot of people didn't know that. And her character doesn't match his. Like when she shows up, she's injured or she's coming back from injury. But when she shows up, I'm assuming she's just going to go back to her role in the JAS. And then it's a little weird for like, why are you dating this person who on screen is terrible and you're a good guy? I don't know. I find it weird when they bring wrestling relationships in and they kind of force them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Like that. And I'm somebody that I don't like the cheap shots of who you're dating.
Right.
And I find it misogynist, and like I might say that to somebody on the ice.
Right.
But I was thinking more of that, but then like what you just said, like, yeah, now it bothers me from a narrative standpoint. Like
but I agree with you. MJF, a lot of the stuff that bothers me from a I don't know, decency sake. Like it's not like I don't know. But I can see where you're coming from with the misogyny thing. Like who cares who your girlfriend or boyfriend is? That doesn't affect you really.
Mm-hmm.
It's the low hanging fruit. I agree with Paul. Like,
yeah,
that it's like making fun of somebody's family. I mean,
right?
Of course, you're gonna hurt their feelings. Like, what person someone's gonna make fun of their dad? Be like, no, I agree, dude sucks. Like,
well, I mean, I would, but that's.
Oh, sorry. that was
Dad sucks. You got a point. I'm not. So I'm in therapy.
But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of MJF's character, is that he hits the low hanging fruit. He makes fun of your sports team and that you're ugly.
That's true. That's very true.
But I don't know, narratively it did bother me because it makes no sense that he's dating. Like, and if they make them on-screen characters, like that could wreck everything. Making Sammy and Ty on-screen like that wrecked everything.
Mm-hmm.
True, because I mean, Ty even said on All Access they had a whole babyface run planned for her, and then everyone hated her.
Right. And sometimes it works. Like Britt and Adam Cole being together kind of still worked, even though they weren't on screen, and then they became an on-screen couple. Like they didn't really explain their storyline, but it kind of worked. But it doesn't always work.
Right.
Yeah.
So I kind of hope they don't have Anna Jay start coming to the ring with him, or because I mean, how do they explain her JAS stuff? And I mean, Sammy made sense because he's dating someone who's a heel, but he's a heel, so that's fine.
Well, maybe they could make it
unless they turn her.
I was going to say maybe they can make it like a empowering women's movement, and she's going to stand by her significant other. Like, yeah, this is what I was doing before, but MJF, you said that. Well, F that. I'm here now.
Yeah, I don't really love when they've gotten away from it now, which I really like. For a while, every woman was attached to a guy. Like they had, Ruby was, Eddie Kingston was defending Ruby, and Ty was with Sammy, and like they did a little too much of that. So I like that they got away from it. So I wouldn't want them to go back to it.
Good point. I was just thinking, how sick would it be if the Outcasts attacked MJF and spray painted the Triple B?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I like the Outcast angle. I know a lot of people don't seem to like it. I really like it. I think it's good.
Wow. I almost went off the rails right there. Who doesn't like it? They're blind and deaf. It's incredible.
I like it. I think it's great.
So good.
They also made, and this is not a knock on Riho. I think I said last week they made her seem a lot more dangerous, and they made her have kind of a character now. Like I don't watch Japanese wrestling, so maybe she has a character, but I didn't know what it was. All I knew is she showed up on Dynamite every couple months, had a match, and then wasn't around anymore. And like I didn't have any real reason to care about what she does. But now they've made like she has a role on the show. She has a character. She has she has allegiances with certain people or feuds with certain people, and it's made her more interesting. And it's made everyone more interesting. It's made, Willow is a great wrestler and a great character.
Oh, yes.
But like now she's involved. Sky Blue is involved. Jamie Hayter's involved. Britt Baker's involved. Like they've got kind of everyone involved in an angle, which, like I said a few months ago, the only people who were at angles were because you were, feuding with a guy.
Right.
So they've done a really good job with it, I think.
It's been very necessary because like I know there's been a lot. I was criticized like jokes of it's 9:20.
Right.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, Central Time, 9:20, and it's time for 8:20. It's time for the women's match.
The one women's match thing.
Right.
They had a lot of the show. Yeah.
And I think they were struggling to have any sort of like just any narrative that could drive those, give anything for those wrestlers. Because before that, right, it was either you were attached to a guy or you were feuding for the women's title. And even that was so compartmentalized out of the rest of the show. And now I really like the Outcasts. It makes sense from like to have those three working together. They all have legit gripes. Their promos have been pretty damn solid. And I like that. I like you don't want to go full NWO.
Right.
But like an outsider group, you keep it pretty small, I think is pretty effective. And yeah, it's really good. It's really nice.
I agree. And I think since they added Ruby, it's gotten a lot better. I liked it from the beginning, but Ruby, her like personality or her like the promo she cut was really good, and just her kind of whole vibe really fits with them. And I like it a lot.
And she was floundering for a long time, like because when she came in, like there was that initial pop, and they pushed her in a couple of matches against Britt, and then she was just like Eddie's sidekick for a while, and like she fits with that group just in every way, and I'm happy for her.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm glad that both of you like it because I like it as well. Yeah. And every time I see, like, I'll read like a review of Dynamite and people don't like it. I didn't even understand how you don't, but hey, it's wrestling. Yeah. People don't like the same things. I get it, but
very true.
I think it's good. Then we have the main angle of the show, the BCC, just like ruining people.
Dalton Castle This was depressing. As awesome of a segment as this was, I did not like to see Dalton going out and the boys going out like that.
I like that it wasn't Dalton. Like they kind of Mox
True.
took him and like held him down, and then like
boys.
right.
I was actually surprised that it was this much of a squash. I mean,
I agree.
I thought it would be at least a little bit of a match.
And AEW tends to not do squashes. The one thing I'll knock them for a lot is they have. This is just pulling out a name. They'll have Mox fight Stu Grayson. No knocking at Stu Grayson. He's a good wrestler.
Right.
But he shouldn't be. He's not John Moxley, right? Or Evil Uno, or any like they're not John Moxley. So that match shouldn't be. It should be 5 minutes.
Right.
Right. So I was surprised that they did this because they usually don't. They usually give even the lowest card wrestler some offense against the top guys, and they didn't at all. But I liked it. Like I thought that's if you're gonna put the BCC over as like brutal and killing everybody, like they should just destroy people.
Yeah, I mean it set the tone, and it was with Danielson coming down at the end. I mean, everybody saw that coming, right? I mean,
yeah, but it was great.
Okay.
Like I love it.
Oh, it was wonderful. There was dude, I know you weren't watching live. It took everything in my power to just not text you, Rick. I was like, oh man, it's so good. Why is he not here right now?
I thought that was great because when he came back, my first thought was, oh, they're going to explain that he came back to like calm down the rest of the BCC because like he said he was leaving to be with his kids. So apparently 3 weeks with his kids is enough time. He no longer needs time with his children. That's it. 3 weeks. Yeah, he's like they just sing songs all. I can't hear Baby Shark anymore. I'm done. I'm going back to work.
I've had it with Bluey. I've had it. Yeah.
We will not attack Bluey. Bluey's the greatest show. Bluey's wonderful. We cannot insult Bluey.
Yeah.
But my first thought was, oh, they're going to bring him back, and he's going to say he's going to take control of the BCC because they're out of control. But I actually like this a lot better. That like he's just like, oh, they're doing cool stuff now. Okay, I want to come back. Like they're hurting people. Cool. I like that. I'm going to come back for that. And it gets us from what it seems like. We're going to get another Danielson Kenny Omega match, which I'm very excited about.
Oh man.
All I wanted was a Kenny Omega singles run, and I'm getting one, and I'm very happy.
Yeah. And oh my God, I just thought of it right now. You're going to get Danielson and Omega at, we'll just say, not Forbidden Door,
Double or Nothing. Yeah.
And what if Punk helps Danielson win?
Okay. Yeah, I could see that.
That would have him not come back at Forbidden Door where you will be. But
right. Did I mention I was going to Forbidden Door? I don't know if I've mentioned that this week.
Oh, you have now. It's official.
Oh, very, very excited.
73 minutes and 55 seconds.
There you go. But yeah, I thought this was great. I'm really excited. The Bucks apparently are injured, so that's going to slow down the feud a little bit. But I think the Elite versus BCC feud is going to be really good.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Don Callis, who apparently slit the back of his head open, but
hey, man loves his craft. He went head first into a lighting rig. I mean, that was well, we'll go right into that. We'll go into the Hangman promo.
Yes.
Well, we did during the promo, Hangman did tell us that the Bucks are legit hurt. I think they said Matt Jackson has a partially torn bicep, and I don't know what they said Nick was.
I think it's a separated shoulder. Yeah.
Separated shoulder. That's what it was. I was going to say Nick's is not that not that isn't major, but compared to a torn muscle, it's not.
Right.
Okay. The whole Don Callis thing, I was thinking about this. He's coming up to apologize because Hangman's grip slipped and it's what caused him to fall. Do they just play this out as like a cheesy 80s wrestling storyline where he just keeps trying to apologize and be sincere and keeps getting destroyed every time he tries. So he finally just gives up.
That would be fun, actually. Yeah,
I know.
That'd be good. I would like that. I do
Like
think
after,
I do think Callis still has an ulterior motive here, and I don't know what it is yet.
yeah, and I mean, obviously everyone thinks, oh, he's with the BCC, but like that's too obvious.
Right.
Like I'm thinking he's going to be the liaison for the Bullet Club.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
Because then that would keep the elite, together. And then, I mean, Juice Robinson told us 2 or 3 weeks ago now already that the Bullet Club is here and there are more coming. So,
yeah, I'm confused by this Juice Robinson stuff. So that would make a bit more sense.
See, this makes me think about if they're having trouble with visas. Like,
right.
Why would they have said that 3 weeks ago? It's like the Bullet Club's here and they're coming,
and then just
now it's
do nothing.
4 weeks in. There's just not even been a Bullet Club T-shirt on television.
Right, and he stopped using the Bullet Club theme, I think, when he's been coming out.
Yeah, because it just says rock hard.
Yeah.
And I don't care. Tony Khan should have 1,000% offered Vince McMahon however much money to record that voiceover for his music. Like, what a baller move would that have been? Like, yeah, it cost us $10 million, but Vince McMahon says, rock hard.
Well, while we're on theme music, I don't know if you noticed, Kenny Omega had his New Japan theme yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Was it because it was a New Japan title match, or is that going to be his theme now?
I think it was because it was for the IWGP.
Right.
But that would be my guess.
Yeah, that's what I assumed as well.
For a whole week, I heard people complain about there being no story between Kenny Omega and Jeff Cobb. Well, if they would have watched this show, there's apparently like 11 years or whatever story there that they could have easily looked up on the internet.
Right.
I think a lot. I mean, we have seen Jeff Cobb a couple times now in AEW, but if there was any new fans out there, I think he probably impressed a lot of people. This match was banging.
Yeah, it was. Not to knock Jeff Cobb. I've seen him in other matches and he's good. So this isn't a knock on Jeff Cobb. But much like Danielson, I feel like I could have a match with Kenny Omega and you could go, hey, who's that guy? He's pretty good. When like, no, it's 100% Kenny Omega. Not saying that this match was that.
Right.
Just a match with Kenny Omega isn't really an indication of how good you are as a wrestler. But he is a good wrestler.
Well, it's like going up against Bret Hart, right? Bret Hart can make who's that legendary guy?
Tom McGee, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tom McGee. Thank you.
Yes. Who they thought was going to be like the next superstar because his first match with Bret Hart, it was so good. And then he had other matches that were not good. And we're like, oh, that was just Bret Hart.
Uh-huh.
It took Vince like 10 more years to realize that was Bret Hart. And maybe we should just push that guy who's having all the good matches with people.
Oh God.
We all love the Hitman, but the Hitman's blind loyalty to Vince is disturbing.
It's confusing at this point. It really is.
It is. It really, really, really is. Anyways,
Adam Cole. Let's go to Adam
Yes.
Cole. Adam
Let's
Cole
go to that.
returned in a
Adam
match that was
Cole.
pretty good. I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
It did what it needed to do because Daniel Garcia is like good enough as a wrestler that it matters to beat him, but it's not like he's not jumping right into like a main event storyline. So I thought it was good.
The crowd instantly with the "You're a Wrestler" chants again. I loved it.
Yeah.
He's
the only guy who this sports entertainer thing is kind of working for. The JAS sports entertainer thing. He's the only guy who, like, I don't know, maybe it's his character that he's clearly a technical wrestler, but calling himself a sports entertainer. Like, it's working for him, but in a way that it's not working for really anyone else in the group.
Well, it's working for 2.0. Come on.
I mean, they could do anything. They'd be perfectly fine on their own too.
they were just a quick little side note. They were on the AEW Games podcast, and they do a game show where they tag teams have to answer questions about each other. And the greatest, they were talking, everybody knows they're from Canada, obviously. So the question was, who is the greatest hockey player of all time? And I don't know, they must talk about this all the time, but they said, well, is it the greatest or the best looking? So so Evil Uno changed it to best looking, and they instantly had the same answer of Bob Gainey. And if you don't know what Bob Gainey looks like, look him up. It was the greatest answer of all time.
Nice.
It was so good. All the hockey nerds out there will understand that, but
Yes.
it was
Yes.
amazing. It was so good.
I had a Bob Gainey poster in a Speedo in my bedroom as a kid. I think we all did, right? We all had that.
I would have liked it more if it wasn't if it would have actually been in your living room. Not
I know.
your
I'm in my living room right now.
living room would be better. For some reason, living room makes it even better.
To this day, you have that Bob Gainey poster in your living room.
I do.
It's the original.
It's actually in my office now. I keep getting called to HR, and I'm not.
Like what a time. Like, why would that poster even exist? like all right, here's what we're gonna do. We know you're a hockey player, but we're gonna have you in a Speedo. It's like, huh? What? I don't know. Like, it's funny.
He made the Selkie sexy. That's what he did.
There you go. There you go.
That's amazing. Oh, seriously, if you don't know what Bob Gainey looks, look him up and just laugh. Because it was the greatest answer to any trivia question ever. But yes, Adam Cole. Now, I think Garcia carried this match a little more than he needed to, but I think they were a little cautious with Adam Cole. Do you
I
agree?
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And which makes sense. Like, they don't want him
Totally.
to like immediately get hurt again. But yeah, it was a good match. Then for some reason at the end, Jericho came out complete with theme music, which was weird because he didn't do anything. But people are going to get upset. I don't know how both of you feel. Jericho is remarkable in his ability to attach himself to whatever's the hottest thing in wrestling at the time.
It's unreal.
He managed to Eddie Kingston. Oh yeah, I'm going to be with him. The BCC. Yeah, I'm going to wrestle them. Oh, this Ricky Starks guy. He's yep, I'm wrestling him. And now, Adam Cole seems to be getting a lot of buzz. Yep. And in one sense, I get that it's a good thing because Jericho is a big name. So getting a victory over Jericho does mean something. But in the other sense, like, Jericho he picks his opponents really well in the fact that it's always the guy who is the biggest guy right now. And I'm not saying he's like burying them all. He's not, 2000 Triple H or 80s Hogan. Right. But he is managing to get himself into basically every hot angle he can.
See, like, you pointed this out and it just bugs me because he doesn't have to do this.
Right.
Like, what? Like, Adam Cole doesn't need him. He doesn't need Adam Cole. Like, put him with Fuego del Sol. I don't know. Like, no offense, Fuego, but just somebody that could use the Jericho rub. Like,
yeah, like the Action and Ready thing made sense. Like, that was cool.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Right. Have him wrestle somebody to just whenever he first put over Jungle Boy, was it if you could last 10 minutes with him? Because you'll never last 10 minutes with me, blah, blah, blah. Like, have him do that with somebody else that actually would matter for them. Because him or Adam Cole, nobody is going to gain or lose from this.
Right. If Adam Cole beats him, it's not like, oh, now you're a main eventer. Like, Adam Cole he's already challenged for like the world title, and like he doesn't need this match with Jericho. Yeah, I guess in the sense that it's two big names against each other, but I'm bored with Chris Jericho right now. So it doesn't really do much for me. His promos are long-winded and kind of cheesy, and like his wrestling's fine. But I'm a little over him right now.
I'm with you. Like, I really cannot wait for Fozzy to go on tour so I can like miss him a little bit.
Yeah, like, I'm not saying he should leave wrestling. Just he should leave wrestling for a little bit.
Yeah, like 3 to 6 weeks will be perfect.
Yeah.
Seriously, like just go on a little mini tour. I'll miss you for a few weeks. You come back.
I do think the JAS has run its course, though. They don't really need to be.
It is time for something else.
Yeah.
I agree. And whatever that is.
Because, I mean, he's had a group basically since the beginning of Dynamite, right? So it would be kind of interesting to see him without a group at this point.
Yeah.
I agree on all points. I thought the look they gave each other, I was like, come on. Like no disrespect to either one of them, but like it doesn't. I don't see what good it does for either of them at this point, except for Jericho to be on TV more. And I like the JSS when it first started. I thought it was, and it burned out so quickly.
Yeah,
and I like Jericho needs to take a sabbatical, and that's fine. Nothing against him, but it's not working.
I mean, I guess in the sense that I was trying to think, why would they have him face Adam Cole? I guess in the sense that they want they want to establish Adam Cole as a top face, so he needs to go against a bigger heel. But does it have to be Jericho? I don't know.
Or I totally just thought of this very second, like the trust factor with Jericho. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It'll be his first match back, and a match with Jericho. Like, it's not like you're putting him in there with like Mox, where Mox will grab like a ladder or something. Like a Jericho match is going to be very.
Mox will randomly stab you with a fork.
Right. Like, Jericho. I don't want to say safe, because Jericho's. I mean, he's a great wrestler. Like the match would make sense, but it would be safe for Cole medically too.
Yeah,
because Jericho is very well trusted. So if if that's the way they're going, I'll accept that.
Yeah, okay, that does make sense. I'm still bored with his character, though.
I'm still bored with the character, totally.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I hate to do this. I'm being called away. So
how dare you?
Okay. I know. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll allow it.
All right.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
I'm gonna fight Chris Jericho right now. So
of course, because you're the hot new thing, so he wants to be part of it.
Yes,
I get it. I get it.
All right, man.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you on,
man. All right. Well, we know a little bit about next week already, so we have.
Yeah, it's a big show.
Yes, it's. Let's see. We're into April, so like about 6 weeks away from Double or Nothing. 8 weeks. So yeah, we're getting into summertime.
I know.
Unreal. The Guns versus FTR, where the stipulation is FTR put their career on the line, and the Guns just have to put up the titles, which is really not that fair of a trade, but I mean, hey, it's pro wrestling.
I know this is clearly playing on FTR, talking about how their contracts are up.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe there's a chance that they brought them back to put over the Guns on the way out. Like maybe that's a legitimate chance, but I really do think that if they were not re-signing, why would they bring them back like 2 weeks ago just to have them lose again? Like the Guns already beat them. Right. They could easily just say the Guns kicked them out of AEW. Like there's no need for the match. I think they're just doing it to play off them not re-signing when they actually have re-signed. I think FTR wins.
I agree. And this being noted, when this match was announced, one of the people I follow on Twitter just said, "Oh man, look at this for next week. I can't wait." The number one response underneath was $1,000 they show up at Mania, and the guy said, "I'll take that. This match takes place 3 days later." And then of course the idiot was mad. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, you said you bet me, I'll take it. They're not going to be there.
on a unrelated note, but slightly related, when we were talking about the Mox podcast, I forgot to mention Mox interesting point where he said he had no contract over the summer. He goes, I could have showed up at SummerSlam if I wanted to. I didn't want to, but I could have. What do you think of Tony? Like that shows, I guess, that he really trusts him, because he could have theoretically gone anywhere if he wanted to. So would Tony Khan give FTR the belt? Say their contract runs out at the end of April, and they say they haven't re-signed. Do you think he would give them the belts to try to like encourage them to stay? And then like he could theoretically get burned by that, right? Like them if he gives them the belts, being like, okay, so you're going to sign now, and they're like, no, we're still not going to do that, because there is. It was reported recently, Brian Cage's contract is apparently up, or I don't know if it's up already or close to being up, but he holds a title in ROH. So basically, right now he's fulfilling his dates. He doesn't know if he's going to re-sign, but he's fulfilling his dates. So that kind of thing could potentially burn Tony in the future. He's being pretty trusting with these guys,
right?
Saying you're not under contract, I'm going to let you. Like Cody, I mean, wasn't Cody's contract? Didn't he not have a contract, and he stayed on to drop the belt to Sammy? So at some point, is someone going to screw him? Like, are they going to walk out with the belt?
1,000% that will happen in the time of, unless every contract nowadays has something in it where you can't show up somewhere else with like the company logo on.
Right. I mean, they'd probably get sued if you took because the belt is probably company property. So I'm sure.
Right.
I'm sure if say Mox did show up at SummerSlam with the title, or FTR showed up at a WWE show with the titles, I'm sure they'd get sued for having the belts.
But the company's going to cover you.
Right. WWE would say, oh yeah, if you get sued, don't worry, we'll pay it.
Exactly. That's, and like I said, unless there's something where, I don't know if they can write it up as like a felony for like defamation of like how you're not allowed to like talk about a former employee like negatively.
Right.
Like, unless it would fall under that, but that's very interesting. But it would definitely happen because I mean it's pro wrestling. Somebody is always the bad guy.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine? I'm obviously we're AEW fans, but can you imagine if Mox showed up at SummerSlam with AEW title?
I'd be sick. I mean,
like I just looked it up. The main event of that SummerSlam, surprise, surprise, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Can you imagine if Roman Reigns beat Brock Lesnar and then Moxley walked out with the AEW title?
Jesus Christ!
Like how insane! Like that! Like I would love it as like a wrestling fan. Like that would have been super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it would hurt AEW. It would really hurt AEW, but it would be really cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen with FTR. I don't think that there's a danger of them walking out with the belts because I think they're already signed. I think that's why they brought them back, because they're already signed. So,
and there's too much respect there to, as you said, you're not going to bring them back to just squash them again in a week after they put their career on the line. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
You're not going to do all that for nothing.
Right. What does it help AEW if FTR loses? Like, say they are leaving. Doesn't help AEW to have them lose again. They've already lost to the Guns. Like if they had the belts, I could see obviously bringing them back so they can drop the belts. But or if they were in the middle of a storyline that hadn't concluded, keeping them on to finish the storyline. But like they'd already finished the stuff with the Guns. Like if they were gone and they were just going to lose to the Guns anyway, they'd already done that. There's no need to do it again.
Agreed.
And another title match we have Jamie Hayter versus Riho.
Jamie Hayter versus Riho. I mean, this is obviously Hayter's going to win. I mean, they're coming up on a pay-per-view.
Right.
See that belt changing hands?
No.
It'll be.
But they have made me care about Riho. Like I said before, I didn't know much about her, and she was fine in the ring, good wrestler. But I never. This is going to sound bad, but I never looked forward to a Riho match. And it's not because she's not a good wrestler. It's just because I didn't know anything about. There's a lot of wrestlers I don't know much about. But now I know, like now she has a storyline. She has more of a personality. She has, so like, now I'm looking forward to this match. Like now I think it's going to be really good.
The thing with Riho that I don't like, and all the announcers do it, they put her over. Well, not put her over. That's wrong. I'm sorry. They don't necessarily bury her though, but they use her only weighing 98 pounds as like yes, it's a hindrance, but like when she jumps off the rope, like let me throw a book bag that weighs 98 pounds at
Right.
you. Like that, you can't catch it. And well, if you're in really good shape, you could, but you
Right.
know what I mean? Like it's still 98 pounds.
Yeah,
Like,
and I would
it's
like them
not
putting her over more as like, yeah, she's small, but like she's really fast or like something,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like she's not going to knock you out in one punch, but she'll hit you 5 times before the first one registers or
Right.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Hayter versus Riho match is really like Jamie Hayter's, big and strong, and Rio's small and fast. Like that's what they should be pitching it as, right? So, yeah, I agree. I never thought of it that way, but that's a good point. That they kind of made it seem like, oh, she's 98 pounds, so that's nothing. But like, you're right.
Right.
It's not nothing. Like,
Yeah, like I mean, that's the first thing I thought. Like, okay, well,
I'm gonna hit
let
you
me
with
stand up.
this pile of bricks. Don't worry, it's only 98 pounds of bricks, so it's fine.
Right. That's like it's not. It's like it's 100 pounds. Like it's
Right.
we're gonna hear from the BCC.
Yes, that I'm looking forward to.
I was just gonna say that this either better be a really long segment or insanely short where you learn nothing, but you want to, like, they give you just enough,
Right.
and then they just throw the mics down and walk out.
I've been waiting to hear from Danielson and Mox. So this is what I feel like was missing from the Elite suspension situation. We never had them come out and cut a promo. And maybe it's because they couldn't explain their absence in a storyline way that made sense.
True.
But I'm really looking forward to this. I think you're right. I think it's either going to be really lengthy, like Danielson's going to go into why they are acting the way they are, or it's just going to be like, we like to beat people up. Bye. And like,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, we don't owe you anything. Yeah. Oh.
Right.
Oh, so good.
I do like that people complain, and I kind of get it. People complain, oh, Mox had that Texas death match with Hangman and then kind of no-sold it in the sense that he was back wrestling like the next week.
Right.
I can get where that viewpoint comes from, but it clearly has affected him. Like Danielson and Moxley are different. They both lost at that pay-per-view. They both tapped out.
Yeah.
And now they're both, angry. Like they're much angrier than they were prior to that. And they're acting extra tough to like prove that, oh no, we're tough guys. Don't let the fact that we tapped out at the pay-per-view make you think that we're not tough guys. We're going to show you how tough we are. I think it's great.
And I just thought of something. Is Danielson still going to be in like the gray area? Because like, what's he going to, like, he's not going to put Max over.
Right.
But is he just going to forget that he wrestled Max? Like, like no matter what he says, he's going to come off as a babyface.
Right. Yeah. Remember when he turned heel, against Hangman and like was, beating up the Dark Order? Yeah. It's easy. Everyone turns heel by beating up the Dark Order because everyone likes the Dark Order. So it's easy to like turn heel against them. I hope he's that Danielson where he's just cocky and full of himself and like, doing push-ups or jumping jacks at the side of the ring. And like, I think that's hilarious.
Oh yeah. That's amazing.
Or I hope he goes, I don't know if you saw him. You probably didn't in WWE. He was the Planet's champion.
That's when he had the wooden belt. Like,
I
saw the pictures and I was reading about it.
He was amazing. That was when I remember they turned him heel, and I remember thinking that was right after like he came back and retired for a couple of years and came back. I'm like, you can't turn him heel. Like everyone loves him.
Right.
He can't be a heel, but he was so good at it. Like he was so good at it. He like he had a level to like his obnoxiousness where when you're a heel, but the stuff you're saying kind of makes sense.
Right.
It's even better. Like MJF's problem is you don't believe the stuff that he's saying. Right. Like
yeah.
But like when Danielson comes out and he explains, why he's attacking you, you're kind of like, okay, I would be mad at that. I get it. I still don't like the guy, but like it makes sense why he's doing that. Like I feel like that's the heel turn. He's going to explain it really well, why he's acting like this. And I think it'll be, we've always said we're a group of guys who likes to hurt people. We haven't changed. Maybe you changed, but it's not us.
Oh, You're right. Oh, that's awesome.
I could see them doing something like that, or I could see them start to talk and like Kenny Omega cuts them off and just beats them up.
Oh, that would be awesome too. That would cut it short.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think this segment, I don't know exactly
here.
what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be great.
Same here. It's going to be a wonderful segment. And finally, the last thing that we know. We know two more things.
We know two things.
Starks versus Juice Robinson happens.
Yeah, like I said, this has confused me. Juice Robinson has confused me.
Like I said, I don't know for certain, but maybe they're dealing with, again, some visa issues, because why you would have him promise the Bullet Club and then have 3 weeks of television where there wasn't even a mention of the Bullet Club.
And where he just kind of comes out and is like, I'm going to fight you, but like never does. Like it's weird. Like it seems like you're right. It seems like they're stalling. So maybe that's why they're stalling.
I played devil's advocate here. Maybe they thought they had Jay White signed, and
maybe they don't. You're right.
Maybe they don't.
Right.
Maybe he. I don't know. But it was. It's
been confusing for sure.
It's been very confusing. It'll be a good match though. And finally, MJF Day, which. I don't know what that is. Probably just a celebration of him. Yeah,
they're in Long Island. Last time he got super.
Oh, that's
cheered.
Right.
Last time he got super cheered in Long Island. So I'm assuming that's going to happen again this time. I was just thinking he had his one-on-one with Jungle Boy this week.
Okay.
Is he going to have? Is another pillar going to come out this time? Is it going to be Sammy or Darby?
Well, whoever it is, it's the heel. So I'd probably say Sammy.
I was thinking Sammy makes the most sense because he's going to get booed regardless. So it makes sense to have him come out in MJF's hometown and kind of start a thing between the two of them.
Or you just send Darby out because, Darby doesn't need Long Island fans. You know what I mean? It's interesting. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Oh,
it's going to be a good show.
It's going to be a great show. And I'm just, before we move on, going to play devil's advocate again. As you were talking about the BCC, I happened to look something up. We are a few months away from Edge's contract ending.
Right.
Do Edge and Christian end up in AEW?
I don't know, because there also have been rumors that Christian's going to end up in WWE. So I don't know. I would like to see them. I would like to see them wherever they go. I would kind of like to see them end together.
Agreed. Is Christian's contract up soon?
He showed up at All Out. Was it All Out when he showed up?
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
And I was going to say, I thought this would be year 2.
Yeah. And he was injured for a bit. So they do extend people's contracts when they're injured. So, yeah, I don't think his contract's up. So, that'll be interesting.
Let's see.
But I would like them to end together. Even if it was in WWE, I think that it would make sense for their careers to end together. The rumor has it that Edge is going to have Gangrel with him at Mania. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if the three of them could end together, even though Gangrel hasn't been as important to, not as important, but he hasn't been tagging with them as long as they've been with each other. But it would still be cool to have all of them together before they finally retired.
I agree. Okay, Christian signed in March of 2021.
All right. So if it was a 2-year deal, it could conceivably be up.
Yeah, but doesn't Tony Khan usually do 3 years?
Yeah, he usually does 3 years, and plus he was injured for a while, so they usually would extend it.
Okay, so there is some overlappage.
Yes.
But then again, I could totally see. I mean, I don't think Vince would, if they would have Christian, obviously he would be just Christian. It wouldn't be Christian Cage from AEW.
Right. Yeah.
But they would have to have a way to have him say AEW.
Well, I know that was the sticking point with Billy Gunn, right? They wanted to acknowledge that he was there from AEW. and WWE wasn't willing to do that.
See, that's so stupid.
It doesn't make any sense to me because like they had Mickie James as Impact champion. She was in the Royal Rumble.
Right.
And the condition was that she got to be Impact champion. Like she brought the belt out and they mentioned that she was the Impact Women's champion. Like, I don't get why they wouldn't have Billy Gunn and just on his name thing that comes up on the screen, just like have an AEW, just be like representing AEW or something. Like they don't have to mention it a lot. Just have like,
exactly.
Or let him wear like the Acclaim t-shirt or something, right? Like just let him do something.
Yeah, exactly. They're so weird.
It's weird because like anyone who doesn't know AEW exists at this point is not going to start watching AEW because, Billy Gunn, okay, I'm going to watch.
Exactly.
Like that. No offense to Billy Gunn, but like if you don't know AEW exists at this point, Billy Gunn is not going to be what turns you.
Yes, I totally agree.
And like, no offense, neither's Christian. Like if you don't know AEW exists at this point, you're not going to watch AEW.
True. I mean, I'm going to play devil's advocate one more time before we move on. The rumors are starting to really pick up steam that WWE is going to be sold here pretty soon.
Yes.
If Tony Khan, we're going to pretend that his name's not even in the hat to buy it.
Right.
So if WWE is sold, do they cooperate in the future? Or is it going to be always that hard line, us versus them?
I mean, it depends on who they're sold to, right? Like if it's Saudi Arabia, I don't know if they'd want to. AEW,
well, yeah, like I'm just talking about if a normal company.
But yeah, say it's like Disney or Comcast or UFC or something. Yeah, I think they'd be more likely to work together because
I think so too.
Because Vince
too much money.
Vince takes things very personally, and Vince, like, you could say Tony Khan has mentioned this as a war, which he has, but Vince also sees all competition as something he has to squish.
Yes.
So I can see another company being like, if we had a show with them, once a year, like a Forbidden Door type thing,
right?
That could make them a lot of money. And I think a company like Disney, they don't care if there's another wrestling company. There's a million movie studios, and like it's not like Disney's going out of their way to like run them out of business, right? So,
right, and yeah, see, I think they'll be willing to play ball too, and even work together, as in like you just said, Mickie James in a battle royal, like Royal Rumble, just have, I don't want to say like the Bucks because that's two people. Like just have Kenny Omega show up,
right?
He doesn't have to win, or just that surprise factor of holy mackerel, that just happened,
right?
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I think they'd be more willing to play. And then if a Forbidden Door would exist, or I mean, it does exist, but if they would be there.
I'm going to Forbidden Door, by the way.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm surprised you don't have the days. How many we have?
There's a timer like counting down. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, like if you're going in debt buying a company for $9 billion, if you could run a pay-per-view and say, hey, we run this pay-per-view once a year and we net like, I don't know, just say $3 million.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, hey, that's one day we make $3 million.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's good for business. So,
right.
Anyways,
not to stray on this point, but the absolute dumbest thing WWE did, not in terms of like just all the bad stuff Vince McMahon has done, but like on screen, yes. One of the dumbest things WWE has done was when they bought WCW and then went out of their way to just bury WCW because they own them. So like it would be like if Disney bought Star Wars and then dedicated themselves to destroy, like mocking Star Wars every chance they got. Like, no, you own it now. Like, just make money off of it. What are you doing? Like,
yeah, I remember like back in the day when it sold. Like there were proponents. Like I would read all the magazines. Like yes, there were magazines back in the day, people. I mean, we had the internet too, but like.
Yes.
Like there were people that wrote in the magazines were saying like, why don't you just leave it alone?
Right.
Like just shop it to another like obviously you don't want to be on a competing network like
Right.
Turner, but you could be on like a competing network, but not on the same night. Like
Right,
you're not
yeah.
going to compete against yourself every Monday night.
Right.
And like, of course, you know, I was just young. It's like, no, you got to do it differently. But like in hindsight, like that's totally what they should have done. Just
Right.
like even had a press release come out and say, yes, of course, everybody knows that Vince McMahon bought this, but this is how it's going to run. This is who's going to run it, and this is where it's going to be. And once a year at WrestleMania, we're going to have a culmination of both shows, or
Right.
both shows are going to culminate on this one thing.
Even if
and
they
there you
treated
go.
it like a minor league sort of, like an NXT
Right.
type thing, where like they would send you quote unquote down to WCW to
Right.
you know get more training or whatever. Like the fact that they didn't just run it as a company was very weird.
It's so dumb.
Speaking of WWE, we feel like we have to
speaking
mention it. WrestleMania this weekend.
Yeah.
It is a big show. We can't not mention it, especially because our favorite wrestler is competing for the WWE Universal title. And that would
still say it's going to be screwed.
That would be, of course, Cody. I saw Jim Ross was talking about it, and he was just like, he basically said like he better win. Like like him not winning, makes no sense whatsoever. So they might do it. I mean, the fear everyone has is Roman is at like 900 and something days as Universal Champion, and there's like the fear people have is that they'll want him to hit 1,000.
Oh,
and that's like next month or something, right? So will they have him win just to hit 1,000? And that would suck. That'd be pretty bad.
But see, at this point, like you almost just give him a stupid match at Mania to let him hit 1,000 and have Cody beat him on the 1,001st day.
Right, I
mean,
agree.
It writes itself. Like it's not that complicated.
Yeah,
people.
Pushing Cody into this match, and if I think he's gonna win, I do think because it's the only outcome that makes sense is for Cody to win, because you don't sign a new guy, you know, push him to the moon. Like they've pushed him really fast. He's only had like 10 matches or something. I mean, he was injured, but he's only had like 10 or 12 matches in WWE, and he's already main eventing WrestleMania. Like they've pushed him super fast, and I think part of the reason they did that is to show everyone in AEW like, oh no, we're not going to bury you if you come here. Like we're going to look what happened to Cody. But if he loses, that makes no sense whatsoever.
And like, you know, again, just saying it out loud, why isn't it like, I didn't realize he was that close to 1,000 days. Why isn't he wrestling Sammy to just beat him?
Right.
And then you give Cody the next match. Like,
because they want the Cody match at WrestleMania.
I get that, but like this is what, like we just talked about it on the last podcast of Biddy when I asked you guys randomly, you know, who the longest reigning champions were. Like this, it's unprecedented. Somebody be champion for 1,000 days.
Right.
So why stop them at 967?
Right. Yeah.
And then you're gonna have to wait another 3.5 years. Like, come on.
Right. It's they have kind of booked themselves into a bad situation here.
Now I want to play devil's advocate again. What if their plan is to give the belt to Cody and he's gonna hit 1,000 days?
And then they can go to Kenny Omega and go, see, look, you could be champion for 1,000 days if you signed here.
Yeah. Oh my God, people would.
It's nice that Cody gets to fight for the WWE title, even though he couldn't win the AEW title.
Correct. He took himself out of the picture.
It's a good consolation prize. I mean, you can't be AEW champion, but you could be WWE champion. I guess that's not bad. I'm still laughing. I absolutely love Roman saying you started a company, couldn't get over, and then ran away. That's hilarious. That's a great comment.
If
like Roman... Cody should have just exploded into dust at that point.
Yeah.
Like, how do you come back from that? It's true. Like,
yeah. Well, as I said last week, Roman Reigns was the most over person in AEW with just that line in that promo. He was way more over than Cody ever was.
we're not going to go into all but yeah, Cody was not Cody was not working in AEW for whatever reason. It was not working.
It was.
I saw Eric
because he
Bischoff
was
said that,
booking
they
himself.
should have kept him. Tony Khan never should have let him leave. They should have turned him heel if he wasn't getting over. Like, I'm pretty sure they wanted him to turn heel. I think he didn't want to. I think that's the problem. Like, if Tony Khan could have kept him and had him turn heel, like, that would have worked out great. But I think the problem is he didn't want that.
Yeah, everybody wanted him heel.
Yeah,
like that would have been so fun. Except for him.
Which, I guess, yeah, good for him. He's getting what he wanted.
Yeah,
he's getting to be the superstar, face that he wants to be. But it's weird. It's all weird.
It is. It's very, very weird.
And of course, it's not the only show this weekend.
That is true. We have Supercard of Honor.
Yes. Which sounds like it's going to be a really good show.
That show is off the hook.
But they've booked basically everyone. Apparently, I saw today that if Will Ospreay hadn't been hurt, he was supposed to be there too.
Oh, wow. I think Aussie Open's going to win. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
We're not going to go match by match, I don't think. But
no, we'll just talk about a couple of them.
Yeah. The Reach for the Sky ladder match. I think Aussie Open wins it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I could see that for sure. And then they could defend it in New Japan. They could defend it at Forbidden Door. Door. Sure. Yeah, I could see that for sure. And new titles are coming. I saw Claudio had a new title. I saw a photo of him with a new title.
Oh, I didn't realize they were getting all new.
Yeah, titles. They're putting the new logo. The one Claudio had, it was like a still of a video. But it basically looks like the ROH title he has now, but with the new ROH logo on it.
Okay.
It looks good.
Oh, nice.
So apparently they're all getting new titles, not just the tag titles.
Very cool. I didn't realize that. I even though I read that article, it just didn't sink in.
Yeah. No, I think it was in a different. I think I saw it somewhere else. Like I saw it on Twitter or something.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I've been meaning to ask your comments on this because you've been watching ROH. What are your thoughts on the Claudio Eddie feud?
I think it's good. I like it.
Oh, it's so good.
It's been them playing into like this long running feud that they've had forever,
like 20 years.
Yeah. And they did a video package on their like 15-year feud or whatever. Apparently that was Eddie's idea. He wanted them to highlight that. So it's been really good. I love Eddie Kingston. So I don't think he's going to win. Do you think he's going to win? I don't think he's going to win.
I do. I do think he's going to win. Yeah.
I don't think he is because actually the same reason I didn't think Claudio would win when he first challenged for the ROH title. I thought Eddie Kingston's never been a world champion. And do you want to save that moment for AEW? But then they let Claudio win his first world title in ROH. So maybe I'm talking myself out of my own opinion now. maybe Eddie does win. I don't know.
The only reason I say that is like, obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff going on with the BCC here.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you're right. Maybe Claudio leaves ROH for a while.
And I know him just bringing the belt to the ring means absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? Like, yes, it's on AEW TV, but it's not like a Ring of Honor match.
Mm-hmm.
If he just has the title. But I could see them wanting to, at least at the beginning, like me and you have talked about, like how Athena has been the champion for a good minute. Like, put the belt on somebody that's just going to be on ROH.
Yeah, like Samoa Joe hasn't been on AEW since he lost.
Right.
Since he lost to Wardlow. I think you're right. They do want to put the ROH guys just on ROH for a while. So yeah, that's actually a good point. That's a good point. I think Eddie might win for that reason.
Brand. Yeah. Establish the brand and just differentiate the two for a little bit, because eventually.
And then when they meet, it means more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like when an ROH guy shows up on AEW, it matters.
Yeah. Because I think you talked about it a few weeks ago now. There's going to be a lot less of, who's that Joker guy going to be? Like they could just throw a Joker in a battle royal match or something, like someone from ROH. Like it's somebody that if you pay attention to the product, you at least know their name.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's not going to be any more Cole Carter situations where you're Googling the name that just popped up on your television.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, yeah, now I think Eddie's gonna win. You convinced me.
There you go. Thank you. I have the power of persuasion on my side.
There you go. Nice job.
Thank you. Well, we're over 2 hours now, so it's a big week. So do you think you want to end it here, or do you want to keep going?
Yeah, I think it's a good place to end it. We've talked a lot of the stuff we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Big week coming up in wrestling in general. There's a lot. I think I saw somewhere like in and around the LA area, there's like 95 wrestling shows or something. Like there's
wow.
It is cool. Like I don't watch WWE, you don't watch WWE that much anymore. But it is cool that like Mania is kind of like a big wrestling week. Like that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I know Tony Khan said he didn't want ROH because ROH always ran this show the same week as WrestleMania. Yeah. I know he initially said he didn't want to have any shows during this week, but I guess he's changed his mind.
He likes that tradition.
Yeah, I think you're right. He likes to keep the tradition that ROH had. Yeah. Even though do you think it'll run over? It'll run against Rampage because it starts at it's early, but it could conceivably run. It's Friday night, right? So it could conceivably run against Rampage.
You know what? It might end right as Rampage because it starts at 4?
I think so.
It'll probably be over around 8 or 9.
Yeah, you're right. It'll be over before. Yeah.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Something about whoever buys WWE and I want the best for that company just because that's what I grew up watching.
Right.
I don't want it to be Saudi Arabia.
Right. I agree.
That would be ironic as could be and funny in a little bit of a way, but it'll also kill the oldest wrestling company. Well, the NWA is the oldest American wrestling company, but anyways, I really hope they keep the WrestleMania tradition alive.
Yeah. It would be a weird day if they started having if it was sold to a non-North American owner, because it is such a big part of North American wrestling, whereas it would be odd if they very odd.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it to a wrestling fan, WrestleMania weekend is like Super Bowl Sunday,
right?
So I really hope it continues. Like I said, even though I'm not a fan of the product, it's a part of it's as Americana as it is.
I agree.
WrestleMania is in the DNA of the United States and North America, just per se.
Yeah.
So, it's a big week. It's going to be a fun week, and we're like I just said, I couldn't believe we're already talking about Double or Nothing in summer already. So
that's right.
Here we are. April tomorrow, I go to Dynamite and.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be good. That'll be fun.
Wow, yeah, that'll be really fun.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you as always. Every week, man, we're here. We're working on 1 year. That's crazy.
That's right.
Working on we're getting close. I don't know what number episode this would be. I forgot to look.
I think it's 40. I don't even know. It's bad that we don't know that, right? I think it's 45, 46.
45, 46. Okay, so.
And we missed a week, but we'll say 52 is a year.
Yeah, we'll say this is
56.
46.
46, sorry, yeah. So even though we missed a week, we'll say 52 is a year because we did. There's a couple weeks we did too.
Yes, good call. So yeah, we're coming up on a year. So thank everybody for that. Just heads up to anybody. If you see me at Dynamite, come say hi. I will be in section 238, I believe. I could easily look that up, but my phone's on the other side of the room right now. So I'll keep you all posted on that. But if you need to find us, just Google us. But we are at Elite City Pod everywhere. If you just Google Elite City Podcast, we come up.
There you go.
See, I learned from last week.
Thank you, Biddy.
Yeah, Biddy. It only took her to explain to me that Google exists.
That's right. Oh, you can look things up on the internet. I understand now.
I only complain about it every week that people don't know how to use Google. I myself apparently did not.
There you go.
yeah, just Google us. Like, subscribe, comment, please. Again, we picked up a few subscribers this week. Thank you. We did a heck of a lot of traffic on Twitter, which I've been meaning to tell you about. I'll tell you after the show's over.
And we've had a little bit of a different format the last couple shows, so let us know
Yes.
if you like it, if you don't like it. It's been mostly because we've had guests, but we also kind of like just the more free flowing talking situation. So let us know. Would you rather have us go like match by match like we did earlier, or would you rather have us just like talk about whatever's going on in wrestling? Either way, let us know.
Either way, we'll do it. Yeah, whatever you guys like, because it's no different for us. It's easier for us to just talk, but if you want us to do it the other way, it's not a problem.
That was fun too.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just as easy. It's just a matter of there's a little less writing, but
That's
not
right.
that much of a difference. It's not that complicated. But yeah, thank you all again. Just enjoy this weekend. If you're going to watch Supercard of Honor, if you're going to watch Mania, enjoy it. Don't forget that it's not us versus them or them versus us. It's wrestling. It's fun.
Yeah,
Enjoy
it's just wrestling. It's not serious.
It's just wrestling. Yeah. Have fun. So, Rick, you have anything to say in closing?
No, I'm good. Good show. Nice to keep this going.
Yeah, nice to keep it going. And I'd like to thank Paul for joining us again.
Yes, definitely.
And
we didn't even badmouth him after he left. So
that is true.
That's the level of respect that we have.
Yeah, we could always edit in the bad remarks.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll record them later.
That's right.
Anyways, again, thank you all. And until next week, later.